As a mom, there are certain things that just invoke like an instant sense of fear inside in your soul when it comes to your children. I know one of them right off top is losing custody of your children. That is like that just invokes a sense of fear, like somebody coming into your house and taking your child, like for whatever reason. Um, I think just kind of lives in the back of our minds. You have a better chance of getting your child back if lost to the state as far as custody than you do your parents if you lose custody. Um, and losing custody of your parents, it is very, very, very easy. I lost custody of my mother in a span of 48 hours. Um, in a span of 48 hours, I was no longer able to make decisions for her. She was placed on an involuntary hold after being found on the side of the road in a state of confusion. The police did call me after they made contact with my mother, and I informed them I'm in another state. Like, I don't. What do y'all need me to do? And they basically said that they couldn't release her, like they just couldn't leave her because she appeared very very confused, and that they were going to take her to the hospital or facilitate her getting to the hospital. So, then after that point, get to the hospital, kind of, they're going to check her out, see what's going on. And then you get informed that they're going to admit her. So I was like, okay, okay, they're trying to figure out what's wrong. They're going to help me because I had just seen my mother about a month prior. Everything was fine, still living alone, driving the whole 9 yards, doing her thing. Um, but in that time span, apparently things had deteriorated. Okay, so I'm up all night, still trying to wait for updates from the hospital to what okay they got her a bed. What I did not realize was that they were admitting her under a mental health evaluation, signaling to like a cognitive decline. Now, once they start using those words, I still didn't understand that it was definitely going to be a different experience than if my mother was just being put in a hospital. Um, the first time I was able to talk to her, I could tell that something that like it was very different. She was upset. She didn't really understand what was going on. I was asking them were they running tests. She was telling me no, no, nobody running nothing. It's a whole bunch of people in here and it's cold and I want to go home. So after I realized, I was like, wait, I'm on my way. I had gotten a flight and I was gonna be able to touch down and be able to like physically, see if the doctors were running tests, see if anything was happening. Okay, sorry. That's when they informed me that she was not allowed to have visitors. I said, "My mama, you telling me I can't come up to the hospital and see my mama? Fuck you mean?" Um there's this whole process. They take your people in front of a judge. They in essence what I have ascertained from this point, they commit your people. They can commit them um, to a facility and hold them. My mother was held there for 7 days. Unless you have things in place prior to this type of incident, which I did not. I never thought my biggest fear was how if I ever would need like an assisted care facility, how would I convince her to go? Was my biggest, like, that was what I feared. Never did I even anticipate having to uh, negotiate with the state about the custody and where my mother should be, other than with me. Um, it just seemed so, it seemed just so predatory in nature. Um, because there are people, everybody don't have a me to call them every, I think I had an alarm set in my phone. I was fucking with them like every 3 to 4 hours I was calling. Through the night I was calling to check on my mama, because they had the wrong one. I don't know whose parents they are able to, pick up, and nobody comes and shows up for them, and they're able to put them in these facilities and then garnish all that their parents have worked for, because that's the ultimate goal, is to get your people in these facilities and run up these bills to where the state then has rights to recoup said money from your parents' estate. So while we are, doing our holiday rah-rahs, a lot of us in our community don't like to talk about death and prearrangements and things like that. Cool, I get that. But this one you may want to go ahead and mention, it, because it can happen, and it's about protecting your family's assets and not becoming victims of the state.